Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the basic meditation class this evening. I see some familiar names and plenty of folks I don't think we've met before. I'd particularly like to welcome anybody who would otherwise be going to the Tibetan Buddhist class tonight. And Roy, who teaches it, can't make it this evening. So I got the word out that any lonely Tibetans are very, very welcome to come to this class. And I've got the Tibetans in mind throughout this class because I feel like it. So I have no idea if there are any Tibetis here at all. Just from the names, I can't really tell. Wongdu was around. I think he's probably a Tibetan, but he's probably spending the evening with his family now. But anyway, what I'd like to do is ask Lavinia, first of all, to put up on the screen generating the mind of enlightenment. There we go. And that, for me, has really important. I mean, when I sat this morning for a few minutes, not long enough, but for a few minutes, and yeah, I go through, Namo Tassa Bhagavata, all the usual sort of stuff. But then I always repeat this. Why? Because because it motivates me. It's as simple as that. Why am I doing this? Why are we doing this? You see, and of course, this is where is it from? Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva vow, or something like that. Anyway, on one of those days when I heard the Dalai Lama teaching, he enthused about this. So I just like to begin with. I might repeat it a couple of times. As I say, for me, it's not just I'm trying to be sweet to any stray Tibetans who've dropped in, but I am. But it's because I mean, personally, I think it's a great motivator. Yeah. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And it says for the benefit of all beings, actually, which is pretty good stuff. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until the attainment of full enlightenment. Enthused by compassion and wisdom, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of enlightenment for the benefit of all beings, all sentient beings. As long as space endures and as long as sentient beings remain, may I too abide to dispel the miseries of the world. And I mean, I just think this is, first stanza, first verse, I shall always go for refuge. With that wish, the intention is to do it for all sentient beings, including this one and you and everybody. Go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And what one's doing there is how you interpret it any which way you like. But we're taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, wisdom, truth, and the human form. These are not abstract notions. Human beings, Sangha, are taking refuge in wisdom and truth. Then in the second verse, you notice now, today, in the Buddha's presence. So that's the potential for certainly in the Mahayana tradition, all beings have this capacity for enlightenment. Everybody does, now. So it's the natural state of the mind. The potential for wisdom is always now. I was just listening to a talk from Ajahn Subhaddo just earlier today again, and he was emphasizing that, enlightenment, it's right now. That enlightened mind is right now. And then the final one, however long it takes, we require patience, And the paradox to me is maybe, doing this for the benefit of all sentient beings, in fact, accelerates our own realization of Nibbana. That's quite a thought. Okay, well, that's the motivation for tonight. So if we could please, Lavinia, have up our Buddha Rupa as normal. Thank you so much. And there again, I just want to give this evening a little bit of a Tibetan kind of flavor. This is the basic meditation class. They call this the basic meditation class. And basic is just a word. Now, a couple of years ago maybe, a very senior Tibetan monk gave a talk at the Buddhist Society. And he was talking about the ultimate nature of the mind, the true nature of the mind, and realizing the true nature of the mind. These very high teachings, you see. True nature of the mind. And that question and answer time, the question came up, well, how do we do it? How do we realize the true nature of the mind, ultimate reality? And this eminent Tibetan monk replied, just follow the breath. Basic meditation. That does the business. Isn't that interesting? So he said, realizing the true nature of the mind, just follow the breath. That's why I take the word basic in basic meditation to mean this answer is absolutely fundamental. Absolutely fundamental. Let me say a little bit more about this evening. By the way, the format of things is going to be as it is usually. I'll give a bit of guidance and then a few sort of reflections and thoughts, so we can take a little break, and then we sit some more, perhaps more quietly. I don't know though. I have other ideas, and then some discussion questions at the end. And everybody is on mute at the moment, but come the end, sort of discussion and whatnot, everybody will be able to unmute and ask questions. But always the chat box will be open. I have the chat screen open on my laptop here, and Lavinia is going to alert me to any chats that have been sent through that I might miss. So feel free, if at any time, if you want something discussed or whatever, please don't hesitate to ping it through in the chat box. So I want to say a little bit, I mean, with this the true nature of the mind and all that, and its connection with basic meditation, a couple of thoughts. In Buddhism, we talk about the contents of the mind and the mind itself. There's the mind and its contents, the mind and its contents. I like to look at the mind and then what's in the mind. And what's in the mind, the contents of the mind, well, we know what that is. That's our ordinary everyday experience, isn't it? You know, sights and sounds and smells and tastes, physical sensations, and thinking, all the rest of it. That's the contents of the mind. But we tend to ignore the mind itself, the ground, where all this happens, where the space where it all happens. And I mean, I said this before, but I'll say it again. I just find it very helpful to think of this as going to the movies. I really do think this is a good analogy. It's not perfect, but when we go to the cinema, we go with an open mind, perhaps. But, well, that's not true. We go with some expectations. But we go to the movies, we sit there, and we watch the movie, the plot, the dialogue, the soundtrack. It can be a romance, it can be sci-fi, historical stuff, comedy, horror, and all of that. But we ignore the most important thing there, which is the screen. You couldn't see this, or you could only see it in a very corrupted way if it was projected onto, I don't know, if it was projected onto the wall of my study here, my little study here. If it's projected on the wall over there, you can see some books over there. You wouldn't see any movie that was projected on it. So a nice, clear, open, expansive, white screen is absolutely essential to the movie. In fact, you know, if it wasn't for the screen, nothing could be projected onto it. And that's the way I think about the mind and its contents. The mind itself is, well, awareness of the contents of mind is what we sort of do in if you like, in basic meditation. We note seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, thinking, etc., etc., etc. Right? But behind all of that, there's the mind itself, the empty, open, aware screen onto which actually we project the contents. The contents. So there's the mind itself. The analogy is that open, expansive, empty, I'll use that word empty, aware mind, the screen, and then there's all the contents. And the practice is gradually to shift the perspective, to shift our perspective from watching the movie to being aware of awareness itself, to shift the perspective from the contents of the mind, seeing, hearing, all our experience in the usual sense, to awareness itself, to the open, expansive, empty experience of awareness itself. And the question is, how do we do that? Good question. How do we do that? Notice there's the contents of the mind, and there's where it's all happening, the mind itself. There's awareness of whatever's going through the mind, and then there's awareness itself. How do we do that? Answer in my book, Noticing and Letting Go. How do we do that? This is where the meditation object comes in, because we're going to sit here tonight, and my guess is most people have a meditation object. The breath, we've already mentioned the breath, but it could be, if you're a Tibetan, could be a mantra, right? Or whatever we use, the sound of silence, the breath then. What we do is when we notice the contents of the mind, thinking or hearing or looking at something, we let go of that, and quite deliberately we direct the attention towards the breath. So continually we're learning to let go of the contents of the mind. And then gradually perhaps we let go of the feeling of the breath itself. In fact, that's a good question, actually. And I remember Ajahn Barry saying this, was it last week or not? I mean, one of the things he often says is, what's it like to be aware of no sensation, for example? What's it like to listen to the sound of no sound? So the teaching is to redirect the perspective towards the screen rather than the plot of the movie. Okay. So back to basics. An alert, relaxed posture. Alert to encourage awareness, physical, noticing. For alert, we can notice things. But also relaxed, because that's the physical counterpart to me, relax, of letting go. And I have no problem at all about people who, at least at the beginning of a period of meditation, sweep their body, notice sensations, notice tension, and then let go. That's quite okay. There's a difference between relaxation and meditation, obviously. But being able to let go is part of the practice as far as I'm concerned. And the physical analog is relax. So whatever posture suits, sitting, standing, lying down, alert, relaxed, alert, relaxed. Good idea just to touch base with how the body feels. How's the body feel? Just sensations. And that's nice, but first of all, because it does give us a chance to be aware of, well, for example, a posture that's not quite right and correct it at the beginning of our sitting together. But more to the point, to notice things like, tension. And the thing about noticing how the body feels also points perhaps to how the mind is, how the mood is. If we're uptight mentally, I bet you we're uptight physically as well. If we're feeling down in the dumps, the body feels particularly heavy. So just be aware of sensation in the body, not opinions about the body or any of this stuff. That's all thinking. Raw sensations, physical feelings. But just spend a moment being aware of sensations. The feeling of sitting, feet, hips, backside, sitting on something. Hands put somewhere, touching something. Breath in the belly. Breathing. The rib cage expanding, contracting. Shoulders. Across the front of the shoulders, collarbone, across the back. Into the face, the head. Saliva in the mouth, lips touching, jaw. Clamp, doesn't have to be if we don't want to. Breath on the nostrils. Eyes, I prefer closed, half closed is okay. Feelings around the eyes. Forehead. Please don't try too hard to concentrate on the capital K. It's not like that. Sensations in the scalp. Physical sensations, ordinary sensations. And some of them might be quite, like noticeable. If you're sitting on the floor, a bit of a stretch over the knee, for example. And other sensations may be really quite subtle. Quite subtle. You didn't realize till you had a little a little itch until you sat down and it manifested in the lobe of the left ear. It's that sort of thing. So here's the body. And it's like this. It feels like this. However old it is, or young it is, or whatever gender it is, or color it is, or whatever, it's like this. Perfect. To be aware of this. How's the mood? You start feeling alert already, or a bit dull, pretty relaxed, or just the opposite, happy or down. Just notice that. This is a practice of noticing, of knowing. Ajahn Sumedho's, his favorite kind of word is, it's like this. This is the way it is. What's the reality of the situation? It's like this. What's meditation practice about? Saying it's just like this. Bare attention. Being aware of the way things are right now. So, got any plans for the weekend? Right now, it's a plan. Right? It's a plan. What happened earlier today is a memory. Right now. And then pick up a meditation object, whatever it is. I'll say it's the breath. There it is. There's the meditation object. And notice we have a choice, actually. We can either be aware of the breath or aware of whatever else the mind is up to. It might be seeing, it might be hearing, it might just be thinking, it might be fantasizing, it might be planning. And the idea is that's true enough. That's our condition. But we don't have to be there, actually. We don't push it away or get enmeshed in it. We redirect the attention. This is the point about having a meditation object, a little anchor. We have a choice. We could lock onto a thought, or we could point the attention towards the breath. This is why awareness of the body is so important. I'll confess, this morning I got up, and for various reasons, I was not thinking happy thoughts about somebody. And I didn't like that too much. So I noticed that when I went in the bathroom and cleaned my teeth, I really felt the hand on the toothbrush, heard the sound of the toothbrush, felt what was the mouthwash in the mouth. And at that moment, it's like that's where the attention was. I don't have to think about these rather unpleasant thoughts. You get to just tune into a simple sensation, like feeling of brushing the teeth, holding a brush, holding a spoon, one hand on the other. It's our call. We sit here, all sorts of things will come into the mind. The contents of the mind are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, physical sensations, thinking. And the alternative is to pay attention to another sensation, the sensation of the breath. So we're learning to let go. We're learning to let go of all contents of the mind except the one which is our meditation object, the breath, the feeling of the breath, the rhythm of the breath, the in-breath, the out-breath, long or short, deep or shallow, a calming, tranquilizing, terribly neutral sensation. Not exciting, not stimulating. And that's why it can be rather difficult to enjoy it, because the monkey mind wants to go latching on to just about everything else, right? And we have to be very patient with the little monkey mind. You notice what it's up to, let go, point the attention back to the mantra, the breath, the sound of silence. Breathing in, breathing out. Just notice impermanence and changes. Everything that comes into the mind, the contents of the mind, comes and goes, doesn't it? Comes and goes. One moment, a bit of pressure on the backside on the chair. The next moment, the thought, whatever it is. Next moment, somebody says something. The sound. Come, they go. And it's very helpful, useful, if we can be aware of, I was going to say these comings and goings, but particularly the cessation, the ending of a sound, of a thought. of the ending. Because what we're really interested in is the screen rather than the action on the screen. So we're aware of sensations in the body, sounds, and all the mental stuff. We're aware of, but there are times, if we let go of them, when there's just awareness itself. Just awareness itself. And that's there all the time. The screen is always there. So please take this opportunity to do what I'm doing and shift your posture. And what else? Oh, nothing's come through in the chat box yet, so don't forget. That's always there for us to use. So I thought we haven't done any metta practice for a bit. There again, I'm aware that in Tibetan Buddhism, there's quite a sophisticated practice of putting oneself in other people's shoes. That's quite interesting, putting oneself in other people's shoes. And as I say, it's quite a practice in Tibetan Buddhism. I gather. And to me, it's all about developing kindness, compassion, and all of that. And so I'm a big fan of metta bhavana, cultivating, literal translation is loving kindness. And it's one of what they call the divine abidings in Buddhism, the Brahma Viharas. And it has all manner of benefits, particularly if we are of a negative or critical frame of mind, or if we have a very negative, critical view of ourselves. And a negative view of ourselves is just a big an error, as it were, as thinking, we're the greatest thing to walk on the planet since the Buddha. You think being egotistical is that. But any self-view is an error. It's an error from a Buddhist angle. It's a construction. It's an error. It's not our true selves. And then, in view of the practice we've just been doing, what is our true self? It seems to me, going back to the analogy of the movie, the movie, the script, the story is often about ourselves. But that just comes and goes and flickers across the screen. And the alternative is to just be aware of the awareness. That tends to be more impersonal. So even a negative self-view is self-view. And that's not right. Quite apart from being painful in and of itself. So metta practice, we're developing thoughts of goodwill, kindness, compassion towards, we said at the beginning, all sentient beings, putting ourselves in other people's shoes. But we can't do this in any genuine way if we don't have kindness and compassion towards ourselves. And often we are very, very critical of ourselves. So I want to start, by the way, nobody need do this practice if you don't want to. For obvious reasons. I can't stop anybody from doing whatever they want. So to begin with, this is a meditation practice, so adopt a posture which is kind of okay for meditation. But by the way, instead of just letting go of thoughts, this is using our capacity to think, to do a bit of, if you like, positive thinking. I don't mind if somebody says this is positive psychology. I'm not going to debate that with anybody. Right? So what I want to do to begin with is just suggest that we bring to mind our own good qualities. Bring to mind our own good qualities. Just spend a moment or two doing that without any kind of embarrassment at all. Everybody here has good qualities. And I mean, the most obvious one is this interest, possibly verging on enthusiasm for Buddhist practice. I mean, that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. But it doesn't have to be, that sort of thing. I doubt if any of us here tonight have done anything very terrible earlier in the day. That's absolutely remarkable. Maybe without consciously thinking, I'm going to be a good Buddhist today, we haven't caused any great harm. And that's amazing. A pat on the back, you see. Bring to mind things the good side of us that we often take for granted. And then there are all sorts of more mundane reasons to, put something positive on our CVs, as it were. Why do people like us? We're just a friendly kind of person. Have we done a few good deeds, or at least aspired to do a few good deeds? Oh, yeah, okay. What about ordinary skills people appreciate us for? I mean, just bring to mind the good things and resist any temptation to say, but. We've always got, no, I don't know anybody who is absolutely perfect. I really don't. So if I want to dwell on the negativity, for me, it's very easy to do that, including negative thoughts about this one. Right? But don't do that just at the moment. Just bring to mind all the good stuff in our lives, our positive qualities. Just spend a moment or two doing that. And good people deserve good things. So when we get to wish ourselves well-being, we deserve it. But then also bring to mind our own need for tender, loving care. Here we all are with these vulnerable bodies. Rumor has it, they get old, they get sick, and they die. Huh. Okay. And then, so we've all had bad times. I'm sure a lot of us have painful memories. Right? We need all the, as I say, loving kindness we can get. We deserve it because we're good people. And I don't want to wallow in, one's personal misfortune. But a lot of us or have been through in the last couple of years and still are going through some pretty tough times. We need metta and compassion, loving kindness and compassion. Let's reflect on that. So that, and there again, we can use silent words. Wish yourself good things. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from all stress and anxiety. May I be free from fear. Just wish ourselves good things. This is a genuine wish because I don't know anybody who doesn't want those sorts of things. Good things. Wish ourselves good things. And the phrase I'll use, because it seems to cover all bases, for me it's like, may I be well. May I be well means physically, may I be well. Mentally, may I be well. Materially, may I be well. That's just my phrase. Just experiment for a moment with a phrase that, really feels good. A good wish for ourselves. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from all suffering. And how does that feel to wish ourselves well-being? And this is interesting because when we bring to mind other people, particularly other people we really like, love, admire, to whom we feel gratitude, people who've helped us, it's a lot easier probably to wish them good things. May they be well, may they be happy, free from all stress, free from suffering, than as ourselves. Isn't that interesting? I once went on a metta retreat where it was like, I sort of thought, well, Buddhists shouldn't be, individual Buddhists shouldn't be wishing themselves this. This is a nonsense. This is a nonsense. Wish ourselves well-being and share it with others. So bring to mind now people about whom we feel really good and we genuinely wish them well. In spite of the fact that around the edges they may not be perfect. And I could make some sort of suggestions. Obviously people who've helped us in any way, helped us. And there again, classically, as it were, it's great Dharma teachers. But anybody who's given us good advice, helped us materially, when you see them every day, they give us a smile. Bring them to mind, and if we know their names, you can silently use their names. Wish them well. And I like to do this with the breath. I'm a big fan of, linking this to the breath. So on the in-breath, we're wishing ourselves well-being. May I be well, may I be happy. On the out-breath, sharing it with these good friends. I call them good friends. With these good friends, people who've helped us in any way. On the in-breath, may I be well, may I be happy. On the out-breath, may this person be well, be happy, and put ourselves in their shoes. So, for example, this is just an example. I think I mentioned earlier, I was listening to a YouTube talk by Ajahn Subhaddo earlier today, and he's getting pretty old, and he's having, walking isn't so easy, and he said his eyesight's not great, and his hearing's deteriorating. What do I wish him? Obvious, isn't it? So just a wish for ourselves on the in-breath, wishing these others the very best, the very best. So people who've helped us. Bring to mind others, people we like, people we love. Bring them to mind. Can maybe, if we're good at visualization, see them with the mind's eye. Wish them the very best. What would they wish for themselves, putting ourselves in their shoes? What would she wish for herself? Not what I think she should have. What would she wish? I wish it for you. On the in-breath, may I be well. On the in-breath, may you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from all stress, from all anxiety. And that's I hope we find that a very pleasant practice. And experiment a little bit. Or maybe it's not an experiment. Bring to mind our family, partner, husband, wife, kids, uncles and aunties, cousins, nieces and nephews. And I'm well aware of the fact that families can be a cause of a certain amount of dukkha as well. But even if we've had a pretty bad time as a kid, like our mother, for example, suffered for us to be born, right? Brought us up somehow. And notice some of these good people may have passed away, wherever they are, whatever state they're in, may they be at peace. There again, there's a lot of death about. Just before this class began, I heard that a distant friend had passed away. Well, may you be at peace. On the in-breath, may I be well. Gradually expanding the scope, the range of these good thoughts. How about people we interact with regularly? People with whom we work, neighbors? And if there's somebody there who right now is having a bad time, maybe they're sick, maybe they're sad, well, in the in-breath, may I be well, may I be happy. A big get well soon wish for them. A great practice I find is we know people all around the world, got good friends, the Christmas card list, as it were, that sort of thing. Here I am right now in UK, but I got good friends in Spain, in Thailand, in the United States, Canada. And of course, up and down the country here. May they be well, may they be happy, may they be free from all suffering. And then maybe people, anonymous people. We've been able to name the people so far that we wish good things for. But anonymous people, groups of people. All people who are having a bad time, obviously. There are plenty of those in the world. Think Ukraine. This is not an alternative for doing something concrete, material to help. But right now, this is a wish for. This is compassion, isn't it? Suffering beings. May your suffering end soon. May there be peace. And we can go further if we feel like it. May all beings on planet Earth be free from all suffering. May the planet itself be safe. Sort of an environmental wish, really, isn't it? I often bring to mind this picture of Earth, NASA's picture of Earth taken from outer space. It's against this dark background with this beautiful blue, green, white planet there. It looks very vulnerable. May all beings be well, be happy, be free from all suffering. And now, in these last few minutes, just let the words fall away, bring the attention back into feeling of the breath, or whatever we use as our meditation object. How's the mood now? So, still nothing has appeared in the chat box. Are there any comments, questions, thoughts about meditation, anything else? While you're thinking, let me, and before I forget, next week today, the class will be led by Richard Bober, and it is possible, nothing has been decided for sure yet, but because Richard lives in London and I live way out of London, the Buddhist Society may try to sort of have a hybrid class. It's experimenting, doing this in other classes. So, to all intents and purposes, if you live outside of London, I guess, it's going to be Zoom, just like tonight. But if you do happen to live in London and you're not a million miles away from Eccleston Square, which is around the back of Victoria Station, you could actually kind of drop in and see Richard Bober. We don't know how it's going to, I don't know how it's going to work, actually. But anyway, they're experimenting with this. This is not instead of having online. This is as well as. So that's next week. And then the Thursday after that, 2 Thursdays from now, the Queen is giving everybody a holiday. So the Buddhist Society is closing because it's a holiday for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. So there. Questions, comments, anything at all we can help with? And you can unmute, I'm pretty sure. Everybody can unmute if they want to. I've now got gallery view up, so I could see anybody who's waving or anything, but I've got to have it on 2 screens or something. Are there any questions at all? Do feel free to say hello or questions or send a chat through. Actually, is anybody here who would have been at the Tibetan class tonight? Just, I'm now zipping around between screens, between pictures. No. Okay, just wondered. Oh, right. Somebody's. I've got. That's great. It's just. Hang on. What's going on in my chat? Yeah, Todor. Thank you. Is there?
Hi, Colin. I'm going to ask the question rather than typing it.
Yeah. Okay. The hybrid class on worked very well. Oh, good. I'm glad that's working. Yeah. Were you going to ask a question as well?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. First of all, thank you for your guidance tonight. And the question is, how is the metta practice similar to the basic meditation? Because I was preparing to have a sitting on the floor and kind of just fiddled around and kind of was listening to it. I didn't realize we're doing a metta practice until it was kind of in progress. So I was wondering, what's the similarities between the two? Is the returning the intention to the same?
Well, yeah, okay. Notice it says basic meditation. When you talk about basic meditation in Buddhism, there's more to it than just mindfulness. I mean, mindfulness is, if you like, the key, but it certainly includes metta practice. It does. See, when you look at the Noble Eightfold Path, and you get to the section on mental cultivation, there's what they call right effort, and there's right mindfulness, and then there's right samadhi, which is rather badly translated as concentration. And so it's not just mindfulness. I mean, mindfulness is really, really important. But under right effort, and what they mean actually, what's meant by right effort is developing and maintaining supportive and helpful states of mind, and avoiding and letting go of unhelpful states of mind. And unhelpful states of mind are obviously negative states of mind, like anger and all this kind of stuff, resentment. And we're encouraged to let go of that, actually. And the way to let go of it is cultivating his opposite, which is kindness and compassion. So it's very, I mean, it is basic meditation. It's just, it is.
I sense kind of a conflict, because mindfulness wouldn't be to strive towards a positive or negative. It's just being aware.
That's right.
Noticing and letting go of either one.
That's right.
Not meditating to feel better, but to increase awareness. And metta is kind of like just trying to feel better.
Yeah, well, okay, but it's quite difficult to sort of, I mean, supposing one has, you come to a period of meditation, a lot of anger, there's a lot of negativity in the mind. Now, what you're saying is be mindful of it. Oh, that's right. You can be mindful of it. But maybe it's quite deep-seated negativity, right? Maybe towards oneself, maybe towards others. Can we not work on it and undermine that? And the answer is yes, we can. Maybe, it's like maybe we're always judging other people or judging ourselves. And this is something that we almost take for granted. So maybe just mindfulness, yeah. But sometimes that needs a bit of help, you see. And developing loving kindness and compassion really is part of the path. It really is. See, some people who don't quite understand this, I fear, seem to think that these qualities of kindness and compassion are the fruit of our meditation practice. They are actually a meditation practice. I mean, there's the Buddhist has something called the Metta Sutta. The Buddha taught, or his words have been taken down and put into various suttas. One of them is the Metta Sutta, and it tells us what to do, how to do this practice. So it is a basic meditation practice. And I think in almost all, if I stick my head out and I sort of say, stick my neck out and I say, all Buddhist traditions do metta practice or something similar. I might be wrong, but certainly most do. And certainly in Tibetan Buddhism, they do as well. It's a powerful tool for seeing through the negative self, this negative self, and having a negative view of other people. So it's good stuff. It really is. And it can be quite challenging, actually. It can be quite challenging, because when you do this practice and you gradually, it's very easy to send thoughts of goodwill to people, we like. It's as simple as that. That's easy peasy. But when we find ourselves bringing to mind people who've given us a lot of trouble, it's much more difficult, isn't it? So the practice becomes one of more of, acknowledging them, of you've got your problems. I don't wish you ill. I may not like you. I may not even like you, but I don't wish you ill. May you be well. That's quite interesting, isn't it? So it's like getting a more balanced view of people. I mean, it doesn't stop us from, it's not a question of going out and giving people we really don't like, who've hurt us, a big hug. It's not like that at all. It's just like, okay, you've got your problems and I don't wish you ill. I don't go out of my way to cause you grief, to cause you trouble. I think that's quite important, actually. So that's how I view this practice. And I mean, the interesting thing is that when you pick up, I mean, over that way, I've got lots of books on mindfulness practice and all the rest of it. And often these secular mindfulness manuals, teachings, include the practice of metta as well. It's very interesting. And so, for example, completely secular now, there's an outfit in this country called Action for Happiness. and I've got a lot of time for them. And so it's action for. I'd encourage anybody who's interested is going onto their website and just checking them out. But and what Action for Happiness is all about is spreading the word about things that make us happier. It's as simple as that. There's a lot of sort of scientific research on well-being and happiness. There really is, you see. And some of it comes to rather obvious conclusions that it's not all about money. You know, I mean, I've been involved. I mean, am still, I don't know, an academic economist, and there's a lot of work on the economics of happiness and well-being, and quite clearly, people need to get by. They really do need to get by. But winning, the jackpot on the lottery gives you an initial boost in happiness, and then after a couple of years, you sort of fade away back to the baseline again. Things like that. Or it emphasizes the fact that relationships are really, really important. When you do statistical, this all sounds very tedious maybe, but when you do statistical work on what makes people happy, the sort of things that come out as being most important are relationships, family relationships, friends, relationships at work, this sort of thing. And yes, money matters, but only up to a point. It's very interesting to do this. I'm not sure how I went down that avenue. Oh yeah, Action for Happiness. That's right. Action for Happiness is it's not a Buddhist organization, although they've got a lot of time for Buddhists, and they've got material there on well-being, and it certainly includes mindfulness. By the way, it certainly includes mindfulness. Obviously, emphasizing the sort of therapeutic benefits of mindfulness, which are well known. It's you're lucky if you can get it these days, but one can get mindfulness-based cognitive behavioral therapy in principle on the national health these days. It's evidence-based. It's an evidence-based therapy. But they also, by Action for Happiness, also make a big point of emphasizing, cultivating kindness and compassion. They do. So these things work together. And just for the record, you see, I'm talking about, basic, there's this class, Buddhist Society website, basic meditation. And, I sort of, mindfulness. But I'm saying, so there are, three components of what the Buddha calls basic meditation. One is right effort, which is, as I say, supporting positive mind states and learning to avoid and overcome negative mind states. And then there's mindfulness. And then there's this one called samadhi, which is developing tranquility and calmness. Yeah. So, it is very easy, particularly by the way, for people who get into mindfulness as a secular practice to think, well, it's just about being mindful. That's enough, actually, but there's a bit more to it than that. That's all. I hope it didn't disappoint you too much by doing it. And as I say, when you get into it, it's not at all easy. And a lot of people, particularly guys, I have to say this, particularly men, when we're confronted with developing good-heartedness and sending loving kindness, you sort of think, oh, this is tiptoe through the tulips kind of thing. It's all happy clappy, and it's not that. It can hurt quite a lot as well, because you dig up all sorts of stuff. You see, it can be quite profound. Go ahead, Deborah.
I have a question. This week I started a course on Zen and eco-poetry, and you had to start off by writing a biography about yourself. And I thought, the self, how far can you go in describing yourself? I was really stuck.
Yeah.
If the Buddhist thing is thoughts about yourself are sort of not right, as you started off by saying, or,
Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends what they want out of you, doesn't it, really, when you talk about writing
Well,
about you. So you
well, it's
could,
almost like a biography, like what did you do, who are you, that kind of thing. But it really made me think, well, how do you describe yourself if you're taking off some of the labels you've always had for yourself, kind of thing?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this is sort of leading into these. I mean, look, there's some factual stuff, right? I'm male, this age, this has been my job. Yeah, I live where I do, I've lived there. And then you get into things like my interests. So, I'd be talking about Buddhism and my academic stuff and the sport I like and this, that, and the other and all that. And it's like, so there's a factual CV, there's factual information you could give them. But it's when we come to evaluating this, when we get to the point of saying, oh, but that's nothing special about me, or I've not done anything special, or really I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. It's just that we can be very, very critical and just not appreciate the good stuff in our lives. As I say, I don't know what people are looking for when they ask you that question, but obviously one can write a factual material, but maybe they want you to sort of be a bit more evaluative. It's like, well, try to do this, that, and the other. I mean, you're doing this course, and that's interesting in itself, isn't it? So you're the sort of, obviously, one of your things is interest in Zen, ecological poetry, or that's fantastic. I mean, that very interest in itself. I mean, it's like, I think it's quite amazing, you see.
Yeah.
Thank you. Write yourself up rather than down.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Good luck. Any other questions at all or comments? Well, I think we're going to draw things, unless there are any more comments. Nothing's come through in the chat. I haven't picked up anything else in the chat. No. Thank you for coming. Don't forget that next week is going to be Richard Boba, so do come along, and actually physically come along if you can get to London. Come along. And by the way, if anybody here was going to go to the Tibetan class, my understanding the Tibetan class will be on at the same time next week as well. So Roy Sutherwood will be back to the Tibetan class. So this class is probably, you must please look at the website before you make any decisions at all. But probably this class is going to be hybrid. So that's quite nice if you're in London. Apart from that, thank you very much for coming. I want to thank Lavinia very much for pulling the technological strings this evening. And I just wish you all the very best for the week ahead. Oh, there's Lavinia. She's popped up on the screen. There you go. You can see Lavinia is a real live human being who knows much more about IT than I do. So, okay, everybody. Thanks a lot. Take care. Have a good evening. Have a good week. Bye-bye.